Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the session on how to understand Quran without any external influence. This is basically a methodology of waqt, highlighting how to understand Quran from Quran itself. So the agenda for today's discussion, Quran in Arabic language. We are going to discuss the reasons why Quran is in Arabic language as per Quran. Is getting Hidayah really linked with the need to learn the Arabic language? Is Quran only for scholars or Arabic language expert, and how being a non-Arabic language speaker is actually an advantage as per our experience? Basic rules and reminders to keep in mind, especially why context and order and placement is so important. Then we're going to discuss required tools and aids that you would be needing. Quran with word-by-word translation, smartphone apps, websites. Then we are going to discuss a step-by-step guide in terms of, along with some examples as to how we do research to understand key Quranic words from Quran itself without any external influence. And since availability of our research work is in our website as well as on our smartphone app, we have also included a brief overview of our app, Quran Words and Concept. Lastly, we are going to discuss why we do not use root word methodology anymore. Examples of main issues such as same root words with entirely different meanings, lack of agreement among scholars with respect to the root word, and classifying the same word under two different root words. In the end, question, answer, and discussion session. So let's first discuss the reasons and implications of Quran in Arabic language. First and foremost, we have to keep in mind that Quran's language is not the current spoken Arabic language at all. It was the classical medieval Arabic language spoken 1400 years ago. There are many languages of the Kitab, that is the language in which it was revealed earlier, are not spoken anymore. For instance, the Aramaic language in which the earlier Kitab was revealed is not spoken anymore. In fact, currently it is an endangered status, means that it is not commonly spoken language anymore and used mainly by the older generations only. Similarly, the language of Hebrew, another one in which the Kitab was revealed, died completely as no one spoke it anymore. An attempt was made to revive it later. Just because the name is the same does not mean the current spoken Arabic language is the same language in which Quran was revealed. Every language goes through transformation and changes. And I'll just illustrate how the spoken Arabic language has changed over time. With the example of Urdu language, since this is a language which originated in the Indian subcontinent around 12th century, which was approximately within the next 500 years of the end of the revelation. The language is called an army of languages because it combines words from other languages such as English, Arabic, Persian, etc. So many words of Arabic that got inserted into Urdu language around the 12th century are more aligned with Quranic Arabic than even the current spoken Arabic language. For instance, the word Nemat Khana. This is a word that's used in Urdu language. It refers to the topmost shelf, and its meaning is derived from one of the meanings of the word Nemat as per Quran as height, as benchmark. Whereas the current spoken Arabic language translate the word nemat in as and anam. So there are two words, nemat and anam, and the current spoken Arabic language translate these words as blessings, one of the meanings of the word nemat, and as animals only. Whereas there are other meanings of the word nemat as well, such as height and benchmark, which is not in the spoken Arabic anymore. Similarly, another word, tehteha, and as per Urdu, the word tehet is used in the meaning of in accordance with or in alignment with. which is what Quranic Arabic has used the word as it is, whereas the current spoken Arabic uses the word tehte as flowing. Thus, the classical medieval Arabic language has gone through many transformations and changes over the last 1400 years. And it's not the same as the Quranic language anymore. Quran's language is unique and can only be understood by Quran itself without any external influence at all. Now let's discuss what if Quran was a non-Arabic language. So this is an ayah which says that if we had jalna appointed it an Ajami, non-Arabic Quran, they would have said, why are its ayat not explained in detail? Ajami and Arabi say, it is for those who amanu, that is seek knowledge, use akal, a guidance, that is hidayah, a guidance, and shifa, healing, treatment, and for those who do not amanu, in their ears is deafness, and it is for them blindness. These are being called from a place far off. Now, if we look at this ayah, what this ayah is basically telling us is that had Allah revealed the Quran in a language other than the language of the Nabi Muhammad and the communities the Rasul lived in, then they would have found an excuse as if the Nabi and the Kitab is Ajami, foreign to them, and thus they cannot understand it. This ayah is also an extremely important ayah because it's giving us a criteria as to how to take Hidayah, which does not matter if one is Arabi or Ajmi, because the ayah says it itself. What is Arabi and Ajmi? But what matters is that it is for those who amanu, that is those who seek knowledge, use akal, intellect to be at aman, with respect to the 5 fundamentals of iman, those who are at aman, peace, harmony and goodwill with others, and those who are upholders of their oath, covenant and misak with Allah. For such people, that is those who amanu, it is hidayah, guidance and shifa, healing and treatment. But for those who do not amanu, whether they are Arabi or Ajmi, who do not seek knowledge, who do not use their faculties, for such people, it is like they are being called from far off place, because in their ears is deafness and is for them blindness. Now, when we wonder why Quran is in Arabic language, is it because Arabic is the holy language or the language of God Almighty? The general impression and behaviors of Muslim is as if it is. If we think, say or act as if it is, then it is like confining Allah to a certain language only, when Allah is the creator of every language and everything. Now let's understand why Quran is an Arabic language as communicated to us by Quran. Although there are many reasons mentioned in Quran, such as eating zikr, observing taqwa, establishing and spreading the knowledge of the kitab, etc., but I would confine our today's discussion to just 2 important and main reasons. The primary one is based on this ayah, which tells us what is the purpose of selecting any language by Allah for Allah's kitab. And we did not send any Rasul except in the lisan of the people. Lisan means language of the people, in order to yubayyana, make bayyan, then yazallil, get misled, yashau, whoever wills, and yahdi gets hidayah or guidance, yashau, whoever wills, and Allah is Aziz the Hakim. Here, we need to understand the vocabulary of the word bayyan, as in yubayyana, make bayyan. The basic meaning of the word is derived from the process of segregating wheat from the chaff. That is, segregating this food from the useless aspects. Does it mean distinctly separating and segregating different aspects of Quran, such as haq from batil, kufr from iman, the sabil of Allah from sabil of tawhud, etc. Based on the word bayan, the word bayyan and mubin also means explaining things in detail with examples, as well as it also means to give clear and distinct evidences and proofs. Thus, this ayah is basically telling us the reasons why Allah sent the kitab in the lisan, the language of the people of the Rasul and the Nabi, so that the kitab could be yubayyana, make bayyan, mubin in all these meanings. So this ayah highlight the second important reason as to why Quran is in Arabic. But here, let's discuss the vocabulary of Kitab, Quran and Taqaluna first. The word Kitab basically means written, the compilation of all that has been kutiba, made fard and obligatory, the books of revelation by Allah. The word Quran is although used in Quran in the meaning of the book that was revealed on Nabi Muhammad, but also means to read, to understand and implement practically. Also means to compile all the ahkamat, the laws and to proclaim to others verbally, in writing and through one's conducts and behaviors. The word taqalun is based on the word akal. The word akal means brain, our thinking, our reasoning and intellectual faculties. Quran places immense importance on using one's akal rather than blindly follow whatever is being told. Whenever Allah has used the word taqaluna or yaqaluna or akalu, it means to use the brain, our intellectual and reasoning faculties to understand things and matter. Now, what are these two ayahs really telling us? That the kitab has been made bayyan, mubin, that is distinctly clear as evidence, segregating the clear distinction between iman, kufr, haq, batil, etc. and explaining things in detail with example. The kitab is the same ahkamat, but it's Quran, reading, understanding, compilation within oneself, implementation and proclamation to others has been jalna, appointed by Allah as Arabiya in order for us to use our akal, thinking and intellectual faculties. Now let's look at another ayah. These are the ayat, the Kitab al-Mubin. Indeed, we anzalna Quranan Arabiya so that you taqalun. Please note that if the language of Quran would be the same as current spoken Arabic language, people do not need to use their akal, since it would be commonly spoken and understood. We would just use the meaning, whatever comes naturally to us as per our spoken day-to-day language. But here, when Allah says, so that you taqalun, means we need to use our thinking and intellect to read, understand and implement the kitab, because Quranic Arabic is not the spoken language. We cannot take whatever is given to us on face value. We have to question and seek the divine wisdom behind every word and every ayah. Then we have to apply the meanings out of the many usages of the meaning of the word in Quran based on the waza, the context and placement, in order for it to make sense to us. We simply cannot follow blindly our forefathers or whatever we are told. We have to use our akal. The point that we really need to think about for both of these ayahs that we have already discussed is that the word lisan, meaning languages, is not mentioned in either of these, which shows that the word Arabiya may not be referring to language at all. Let's discuss the vocabulary of the word Arabiya. If you look at the use of the word Araba in classical medieval Arabic, it means to express or state clearly. For instance, in Ayah 56:37, the word Ruban is not used in the meaning of Arabic language, tradition or culture, etc., but in terms of stating or expressing clearly. Thus, whenever Quran uses the phrase Quranan Arabiya, it basically means the Kitab of Allah whose ayat, which itself has been made mubayyan and bayyan, its Quranan, that its reading, understanding and proclamation to others has been Arabiya, stated and expressed clearly so that we can use our akal. Similarly, while citing other reasons, the same phrase is used, that Quranan Arabiya, meaning Quran has been stated and expressed clearly by Allah so that we do zikr, so that we observe taqwa, so that we spread its knowledge and establish the knowledge that we gain from the kitab. Now let's discuss who are the Quran addressees. As we know, Quran is for people of all races, geographies, languages and diversities for all times to come, until the end of the world. We all know that and we say that too, but we do not believe this, as we practice as if it's only for certified scholars or Arabs or Arabic language experts only, and we restrict it for their use and research only. If we look at the addressees of the Quran, there are many examples of Quranic ayahs specifically addressing its addressees. such as O mankind, O Bani Israel, O Bani Adam, O Ahle Kitab, O the Arabs, or O Ahle Kitab, O those who Amanu, O the Rasul. There is not even a single ayah which addresses O the Arabs or O those who know Arabic language. Many a times we come across people who are proud due to them being Arabs, or if they know spoken Arabic, as if somehow this is their distinction and honor in Islam. Whereas if you look at Quran, Allah says, and of the ayat of Allah is the creation of the samawat and the earth and the diversity of your languages and your colors. Indeed, in that are ayat for those of knowledge. Thus, it is neither a matter of pride or arrogance if one is born Arab or knows Arabic language, neither it's a cause of embarrassment, disadvantage, or shame for anyone if one is a non-Arab or does not know the spoken Arabic language, since no one is the owner or the creator of these languages. Same is the case with the color of our skin or the way we look. None of these are matters of pride, arrogance, shame, or embarrassment at all, as Allah is the one who has created everyone and everything on this earth and the skies. If the qualification to speak Arabic language was required to understand Quran, then it would have been next to impossible to spread Islam all across the world. Additionally, this requirement of Arabic speaking would have been mentioned in Quran itself as a requirement. On the contrary, in multiple ayahs, Allah says, we have made the Quran easy and simple for zikr. But is there anyone who would pay attention? Here, we need to understand the word zikr. If you look at the word zikr, it's used in Quran in multiple meanings. It's used in the meaning for Quran itself. Then remembering and being grateful about the many blessings of Allah and becoming shakir is also termed as zikr. That is becoming abid, follower of Allah's laws out of utter gratitude. Additionally, the word is also used in the meaning of understanding and implementing the ayat of Allah, as well as taking ibrat or lessons from previous stories as narrated in the kitab. Thus, when Allah says Allah has made Quran simple and easy for zikr, the word zikr is used in all of these meanings. If anyone says that you cannot understand Quran if you're not a scholar or if you're not an Arab or if you do not know spoken Arabic language, then that person is actually going against these very explicit Quranic ayah as an act of munkir, rejecting Allah's ayat, or kufr, trying to conceal Allah's ayat. By doing this, that person is strengthening the huge wall between you and the Quran. Whereas this wall needs to be shattered, as Quran is for you and me. People from all over the world with different languages and geographies. It is for the mankind as a whole. Now let's discuss the advantages of being a non-Arabic speaker. Now, before we discuss that, let's discuss the disadvantage of being an Arabic language speaker. Contrary to what people believe, if someone is an Arabic language expert or speaker, one of the major disadvantages of knowing Arabic as our mother tongue while reading Quran is that we tend to use whatever meanings of the Arabic word we use in our day-to-day life. Since as Arabs or as Arabic language speakers, we would be under the impression that we know the Arabic language. Therefore, we do not need to pick up Quran to understand the language. Whereas Quranic vocabulary is much different than the spoken Arabic nowadays. Plus, there are many words which are used in Quran in many different ways and meanings, whereas in our usual day-to-day use, the Arabic language utilizes only one or a couple of these meanings, or the meanings have been entirely changed over the course of time. For instance, consider the word rahm, which is normally translated as mercy, as per common spoken Arabic, whereas the word is used in Quran in completely different meanings, neither of which is mercy, or for example, the word nemat, which is normally translated as blessing as per commonly spoken Arabic, whereas both these words have different meanings and needs to be applied based on the context and use of that word in any particular ayah. Hence, when we do not pick up the Quran as an Arabic speaking expert or as an Arab, we can make mistakes. and misinterpret Key Quranic ayahs by picking up the meaning whatever is normally spoken. Because we do not refer Quran, and by ignoring the context, thus we end up making mistakes and misunderstanding Key Quranic words and Key Quranic ayahs. For non-Arabs or those who are not Arabic language experts or speakers, there is a phenomena and experience, a process of learning any second language. Our mother tongue, our first language with which we were born with, has solid imprints on our mind and brain. Whenever we try to learn any other language, for example, Quranic Arabic or any other language, our brain translates these words into the meanings in our mother language in order for us to be able to understand and speak the second language. Since it's not possible to memorize whole new vocabulary, we can remember only a few meanings of one single word. And therefore, we always have to refer these vocabulary. This means that even without knowing the spoken Arabic, or even after knowing spoken Arabic, we will still need to research on these Key Quranic works, since we cannot memorize the whole new vocabulary. We have to refer the Quranic vocabulary again and again, and then apply the meanings based on the context of each ayah. Since due to this, we have an advantage as a non-Arab to always refer to the context and all the meanings of the vocabulary, and then pick up whichever one is applicable, unlike what we would have done naturally as an Arab or Arabic language speaker. Now let's discuss some basic rules and reminders to keep in mind when we are doing research on Key Quranic words. The first and the foremost, this is an ayah which says that shall I seek other than Allah as hikam, lawmaker, judge, when it is Allah who has brought down to you the kitab fully detailed. This ayah, as well as many other ayahs in Quran, gives us an important message that Allah is the only hikam, the only lawmaker, the only judge in matters of deen. And all the laws of Allah as per Deen Islam are mentioned in Quran. Therefore, Quran is the only source of deen. Let's look at another ayah. If you look at this particular ayah, Allah has ordained for you the same deen as He has ordained upon Noah, and what we have revealed to you and what enjoined upon Ibrahim and Musa and Isa. Akimo the deen, establish the deen and not be divided therein. This is a difficult and a big task for those who are mushrikeen, what you call them too. Since the only hikam, the only lawmaker in deen is Allah, whoever follows any laws other than the laws of deen, then that is shirk. And therefore it is akbar, a big task, very difficult for the mushrikeen not to be divided into sects and groups by following other man-made laws. Above ayah is very, very clearly telling us that if we follow any of the kitab of Allah, then we will be following all the Anbiya, since every Nabi and Rasul got the same Hidayah, the same kitab, the same hukumat. Therefore, we cannot pick and choose one particular Nabi to follow his laws. We have to pick the kitab and follow the commandments of Allah as ordained in the kitab in order to avoid shirk, since Allah is the only hikam, the only lawmaker, the only judge in matters of deen. Another important rule is identified in this and in many other ayahs as well, that observe what is in the skies and the earth, but of no avail will be ayat and the warners to people who do not amanu, who do not seek knowledge. Here we need to understand the two key foundations of deen, which are ayat and the word amanu or iman. The word ayat means sign. Any sign of Allah which includes both the kalam of Allah as words in the Quran as well as the creation of Allah in science and universe. Ayat also means to pause, to think and to reflect. In fact, the definition of ayat only gets completed when we think and we ponder. The word amanu basically means to seek knowledge, to be at aman. To be at aman by using one's faculties, especially your akal, and brain, thinking and intellectual faculties. Be at aman, peace, harmony and goodwill with others, and be at aman in terms of being upholders of one's covenant and misaq with Allah. So what this ayah is basically telling us that those who do not amanu, who do not seek knowledge, who do not use their faculties and akal, for them the ayat is not an ayat at all, because the definition of ayat is not completed if you are not amanu. This is another ayah, but what it basically shows is the importance of thinking and intellect. It shows the use of our faculties, especially of that akal, as the basic foundation of ayat to become an ayat. The basic foundation of deen rests on one's use of akal. Otherwise, as per Quran, we cannot even fall deaf, dumb and blind on Allah's ayat. We cannot blindly follow anyone or anything, even Allah's ayat. We have to use our akal. We have to use our intellect and faculties. Another reminder, as apparent from this ayat, and the earth will shine and the light of its Rabb, and the kitab will be placed, and the nabeen and the shuhada will be brought, and it will be judged between them in haqq. Here, the word kitab is used in both the meanings of our record of deed as well as the kitab revealed by Allah. This means that the accountability on the day of judgment is going to be based on the kitab, that is not only our deeds, but in accordance with the kitab, the book revealed by Allah. The word the word haqq needs to be defined a bit more. If you look at the meaning of the word haqq, it's used in Quran in multiple meanings. The absolute truth, which means that the truth at its best. There cannot be any doubt, any possibility of any doubt or any falsehood in the deen. The deen is absolute justice, justice at its best. Haqq is also used in Quran in the meaning of someone's due right, based on Allah's solid judicial principles. And it also refers to our duties and responsibilities as a Muslim. So what these ayahs are basically saying is that when Allah says deen is haqq, it means there cannot be any falsehood, any injustice of any kind as per deen. There cannot be any doubt, there cannot be any injustice. Also, deen is haqq upon us as a bare minimum duty, obligation and responsibility as a Muslims. So we need to keep these basic rules and reminders in mind that deen is haqq in all these meanings. Another basic rule and reminder to keep in mind is that there is no ikraha, force, dislikeness, compulsion in deen. And there is no hardship on you in practicing your deen. So what these ayahs are basically telling us that there is no concept of any force, any compulsion, any pressure or hardship as per deen, as per these laws of Islam as mentioned in the Quran. There is no possibility of any force or compulsion or any hardship at all. This is one of the another important reminder to keep in mind that Quran and Deen is one consistent source. There is no possibility of any contradiction, any dispute, any ikhtilaf in it. So if you look at this particular ayah, there is no concept of any contradiction among any ayahs in Quran. It is consistent and aligned and synchronized. This is one of the most important basic reminders to keep in mind. What this reminder means is that if any concept from any ayah that you're understanding contradicts any other basic rule or any other ayah, then that understanding needs to be reviewed. For example, consider the example of the general understanding that Allah is ordaining beating of wife in ayah 434. If this is the case, then this concept contradicts not only the basic rule of no injustice, no force, no compulsion as per deen, but clearly contradicts many other ayahs. For example, ayah 30:21, where Allah describes a husband and wife relationship as one of the ayat of Allah, wherein they both are created from the same nafs so that they find sakoon and affection and tranquility in each other, wherein Allah has placed rahmat between them. Then how is it possible that Allah then advises the husband to beat his wife? There cannot be any contradiction between any ayahs of the Quran. what needs to be done as we move along in our study of Quran is that we cannot rush. We have to invest time. If you want to get the Hidayah, it's going to take time and efforts. So be ready. Blind following is easy, right? But to come out of your comfort zone, to think, to research, and to be on Hidayah, it's not. In fact, this is the exact definition of doing abd, to become abid, which is to go through a small hassle and trouble in order to seek long-term and permanent benefits. So while doing research and study Quran, we have to use our akal. We have to use our intellect and reasoning. This is the important power that Allah has blessed us with. Never ignore whatever questions comes to your mind. No matter how stupid that question might sound, ask. At most time, Allah addresses that particular question within the next couple of ayahs and almost always within the Quran itself. It's amazing as if Allah is reading our minds. Ask yourself, ask everyone, seek answers, research, investigate, and do not rest until you have the answer to the question that has come to your mind. So our overall approach to research and understanding Quran should be rational, which works at three broad levels. First and foremost, focus on the primary source of information for Deen, which is Quran. Quran is not just primary source of information for Deen, it is the only source of information. Nothing should be relied upon from external to Quran sources. Secondly, vertical thinking means that whatever I learn from my forefathers, I learn only then and try to pass on the same knowledge to my children. This is blind following. This is vertical thinking. Whereas our approach to understanding Quran should never be vertical. It should never come from blind following. It should be lateral. That is learning from our environment, using our faculties, especially our akal, thinking and reasoning abilities and our intellect. That's how our approach should be to understand Quran. And our approach should be logical. What is prevalent among us as Muslims today is that we think emotionally about Deen. We become emotional while discussing matters of Deen, or we block ourselves completely from such discussion. This is emotional approach to Deen. Quran asks us to approach taking the Hidayah, the guidance from Quran, in logical, fact-based manner. To use our akal, seek knowledge, seek facts, do research. When it comes to matters of Deen, more so than other matters of our life, we should always base our decision, our approach, our actions on facts, never on emotions or feelings. Why and how the context and order is most important. The word waza is used in Quran in the meanings of settings. The word mawazi is basically means waza. It's waza, right? So it's used in Quran in the meaning of settings, placement, context, alignment, perspective, circumstances, backgrounds, or framework through which something is originally intended and planned by Allah. Therefore, when Quran uses the word mawazihi or waza, it is an action noun denoting something to which wazeha, the act of placement framework, has been done as per its original intended divine design, placement, context, and order. Therefore, as per our experience, the waza, the order, the context, and placement of all Quranic ayahs and surahs are extremely important. We must adhere to the waza in order to understand the divine guidance. We can never take a phrase or an ayah out of the Quran, out of its waza, context, placement, and intended design. You will experience as if you research by keeping the waza, you will experience as if Allah is hand holding you, graduating you from a kindergarten to a hidayah as you move from Surah Fatiha to Surah Baqarah and on and on. It's because of this reason that we should never do a topic-wide research. We should always follow the waza of the Quran, start from Surah Fatiha, and then move on and then finish the complete Quran first before we do a topic-wise research. Let's now discuss some tools and aids that you would need in order to understand Quran from Quran itself. The first and the foremost, take Quran with word by word translation. Do not take tafsir or any exegesis like explanation, interpretation, context or commentary at all, but take Quran with word by word translations only. These are just few of the examples in terms of how you can take Quran with word by word translation. In terms of the websites, there are many that are available. You can pick whichever one you're comfortable with. We mostly use corpus.quran or quranful.com, but you can pick whichever one you're most comfortable with. In terms of smartphone apps, again, you can pick whichever one you're comfortable with. We mostly use Al-Quran, Tafsir and by word and Quranic words, but pick whichever one you are comfortable with. Let's now discuss a step-by-step guide as to how we research on Key Quranic words. Now, this is the session where we are explaining how we at work do research on Key Quranic words and ayahs. Please feel free to use whatever you deem best, to use your own methods if you find them better, in which case we would request please share that method with us as well so that we can all learn from each other. So this is just our way, our method. Please feel free to use whatever method you deem fit, but do share your method with us as well. So what we do is, as a first step, we take out all the ayahs with the use of the same word. Since currently there is no other source except the root word, then unfortunately we have to route this through the root word data compilation, but ignore the root word's different extensions. Look for the same word that's used elsewhere in Quran. Take out all the ayahs with the use of the exact same word. Step 2. Check each and every ayah with the use of the word. Take the whole list of this ayah, see what is the meaning of the word in that particular ayah, check the waza, check the context by checking at least the previous 2 to 3 ayahs of each word usage and the next 2 to 3 ayahs in order to understand the meaning of that particular word in that particular ayah. Step number 3, identify the common meanings or set of meanings that are used across these ayahs for that particular word. And step 4, once you have arrived at a common characteristic of any word, then cross-check the same if those meanings are applicable in other ayahs too, just to make sure that you have arrived at the right vocabulary. So we will illustrate it through different examples. The first example that we have picked is the word anhar. Again, step 1 is the same, is to take out all the ayahs. For this purpose, we are using the smartphone app, Quran Al-Tafsir. So for instance, if we want to search for the word anhar, it is used in ayah 225. So click on this word and then click for more. Do not look for the same word, and it's because of this that do not use these two words extension. These two words have different alphabets. You look for the same words. The same word is the word nahar, which appears in Quran 54 times. So we have to take out each of these words and then understand what is the meaning of this word. So step 2, we have to take out and check what is the meaning of the word as appeared in these ayahs. So if we click on this 54 times, it appears. We have to go to all of these ayahs and check the meaning of the word anhar, nahar or anhar in plural in all of these ayahs. So for instance, if you click on 7112, this screen would appear. Check 2 to 3 ayahs before, 2 to 3 ayahs after this ayahs, just to understand the context, the waza, in order for you to understand the meaning of the word. So if you look at the meaning of the word anhar, the word nahar, plural anhar, is normally translated as day or as streams or river, but the real meaning of the word is truly reflected as per the ayah that we checked through the same illustrated process. So if you look at this particular ayah and give you increase in amwal, wealth, title, resources, properties, etc., and aulad, children, and provide for you jannat, and provide for you anhar. So from this ayah, if we translate it as provide you with streams or days, none of these meanings would apply. It seems that this ayah is talking about something that we desire or want for ourselves, just like we desire amwal and aulad, children, and jannat. Let's look at another ayah. So this ayah, and we will remove whatever is within their hearts of the resentment, tajri, provided in abundance, of tahtiha, in accordance with the anhar. And they will say, the hamd is for Allah who has hadana, guided us to this. So same here, if you look at the word anhar, and the word anhar is linked here with removal of resentment, worries, and unhappiness from one's life. And based on the above two and others, it seems that the word anhar means anything and everything that we desire and want for a fulfilled life that is devoid of any unhappiness, any resentment, any worries at all, when one is at sakoon, peace, tranquility, self-actualized state, which as per this ayah is also reflective of the state when one is as per Hidayah, as guided. So if you read this particular ayah, then Allah has made therein the earth, the sabil and the nahar, so that you may get Hidayah. Here the word anhar has nothing to do with streams or rivers, but is used alongside with subulan, that is sabil, path of Allah, reflective of all such things which strengthens our nafs mutmainna, wherein we are happy, satisfied, and in actualized state of mind and soul. Let's look at another ayah that we checked using the same process, the same step-by-step process. So this ayah is basically Nabi is warning his nation. And the phrase is, he said, indeed Allah will mubtala you with a nahar, then whoever sharaba, engulfed, overwhelmed, and overpowered by it. So this ayah does not mean that Allah will mubtala you, surround you with day or water or river, but the word nahar includes any of those things which would be provided as a situation or condition that one craves for, that one desires for, such as amwal, wealth, title, resources, aulad, children, popularity, spouse, prestige, through which those with the Nabi, would be tested and tried in terms of bringing out the real characteristics of them. So there is a phrase in Quran which describes the Jannat, right? Jannatan tajri min tahtihal anhar. So if we look at this particular phrase, Allah is not talking about rivers at all. Tajri means will be, tajri basically means will be provided in abundance, in ample supply. Tahtiha means in accordance with, in alignment with. Anhar means whatever one craves for and desire for. This means this phrase Jannatan tajri min tahtihal anhar basically means that Jannah is the place where peace, tranquility, and all ways and means which are necessary to a fulfilled, happy, and satisfied life would be provided for in ample supply and in abundance. Therefore, the meaning of the word nahar, plural anhar, are all those things that we crave for, such as amwal, aulad, peace, Zoj, partners, prestige, popularity, standing, basically all those things that fulfill our needs and requirements for a psychologically and mentally fulfilled life, and nothing to do with rivers or streams or days at all. Now let's discuss another example. Again, we will go through the same process, take out all the ayahs, ignore the root word, check each and every ayah, identify the shared characteristics among all the meanings, and cross-check if the same meanings are applicable in other ayahs too. For instance, when we are taking out all the ayahs, again we are using the same smartphone app. Surah Baqarah, ayat number 34, uses the word Aba. Again, we will click for more, and we will check all these 13 ayahs with the use of the word Aba. So through the same process, if we look at the word Aba, Aba is normally translated as refused, deny, or reject. So for instance, in this ayah, when we said to the Malaik, do sajda to Adam, they did sajda except for Iblis, who Aba. But if we take the word as refused in this ayah, this would be a clear contradiction of another Quranic ayah. Now remember the basic rule and reminder, there cannot be any contradiction. There cannot be any contradiction between any of the Quranic ayah, because Quran is one consistent source. So for instance, as per this ayah, Allah is telling us that Malaik obey whatever Allah asks them to amr of. They cannot disobey Allah's amr. They cannot refuse Allah. They cannot reject or deny Allah's amr. They cannot do that. So let's discuss the ayahs and the meanings used as per those ayahs that we checked as per the step-by-step process. So for instance, in this particular ayat, indeed we offered the trust to the skies and the earth and the mountains, and they are obeying to carry it, and they fear from it. Now, if we translate the word as refuse in this ayah, can the skies and the earth and the mountains refuse Allah? Like, is it even possible that anything or anyone on the earth or the skies can refuse God Almighty? It seems that the word is not used here in the meaning of refusal or rejection by the earth, the skies, and the mountains, but in the meaning of their inability to carry the task. In their inability, like they could not do it, they were unable to do it. Let's look at another ayah. And we certainly showed him the Pharaoh, our ayat, but he kazaba, denied, refused, rejected, and aba. Now in this ayah, the word for refusal, denial, making fun of something is already there, which is the word kazaba. Thus here, because of his pride and arrogance, Pharaoh did not have the ability to amanu on the ayat of Allah, and therefore this aspect is mentioned through the word aba alongside with him kazaba, rejecting, denying, and ridiculing Allah's ayat. So these ayahs, when Allah says, means that is basically using in the same meaning. The word Aba is used in both of these ayahs in the same meaning. That Iblis, being one of the Malaik of Allah, had no choice except to carry out the duties as ordained to him by Allah. Since being Malaik of Nazalna, revelation of Shaitan, thoughts, elements, people, aspects, his job is to go against the mankind. And therefore, he could not, was unable to do sajda to Adam. The characteristics such as that he was mutakabbar, proud and arrogant, or kafir, the one who hides and conceals, fasik, works outside the boundaries of deen, and jinn, the one whom we cannot understand or comprehend, are all the traits and characteristics of Iblis, as well as those who are under the influence of khutawat of shaitan, the impacts of shaitan. So the word aba basically means unable to or could not do it. Now let's discuss one other example, the example of the word deen. Again, we follow the same process. Step 1, take out all the ayahs. Step 2, check each and every of this ayah in order to understand the usage or the meaning in that particular ayat. Identify the shared common characteristics and cross-check for application. So if we take out all the ayahs of the word deen, this time we are using the website, which is corpus.quran. So in order to use the website, you go to Quran dictionary, click on the word dal, and then search for dal ye noon in order to arrive at all the ayahs. And when you click the word go, it will give you all the ayahs in different forms with the use of the word deen. We have to check all these forms. We have to check each and every ayah that comes under all of these different forms. So based on this process, the word deen is used in 4 different groups of meaning. So for instance, the first and the foremost, it's used in Quran in the meaning of rules, laws, regulations, instructions, guidelines. So for instance, here in Ayah 1276, it's used in the meaning of the laws of the Malik or the king. It's also used, so for instance in this ayah, it's used in the meaning of obligation, a debt which one is indebted for a specified or a limited period of time. It's also used in the Quran in the meaning of rewards and punishment, payback, recompense. And it's also used in the meaning of fitrat of Allah. So for instance here, so direct your wajah towards the deen Hanafin, fitrat of Allah, which means all those desired characteristics that Allah would like to see in us, which are basically fitrat of Allah. So based on these 4 set of meanings, the word deen as defined by Quran itself is not religion. Deen are basically the rules, the regulations, the set of instructions, the commandment given to us by our Creator. It's a complete code of conduct. It's a way of life perfected by Allah, which defines the boundaries of our freedom and our restriction through these rules and regulations. We need to comply with these rules as per our covenant with Allah, to which we are indebted for a specified period of time during the temporary life here on earth until our death. On the basis of these rules, the compensation, rewards, and punishments are accorded in this world as well as in the Akhirah. These rules are in accordance with an alignment with fitrat of Allah, with the basic purpose of bringing out the very best in us through utilization of all our faculties and abilities, especially our intellect, to its maximum. Now, I would also like to identify how we need to fit in. So the word has 4 broad meanings, right? Which of these meanings would apply to which ayah? We have to keep in mind the waza, right? So in order to understand this particular concept, let's discuss the ayah 103, which is Surah Fatiha, Maliki Yawmuddin. So normally this word Maliki Yawmuddin is normally translated as Malik of the Day of Judgment as per normal translation. But the word is not Day of Judgment, because the word for it would have been Yawmul Akhirah, right? Had that Yawmul Akhirah, Maliki Yawmul Akhirah would have been mentioned, it would have been the Day of Judgment. But it's not used here. Plus, it is not aligned with the context, with the waza. So let's look at the waza. So the concept so far from ayat number 1 to 3 has to be kept in mind in order to understand which of these meanings, which one or which combination of these meanings should be applied. So the first ayat is Alhamd is for Allah, which is basically asking us to do hamd, praise out of deep conviction, knowledge and personal experience, which we cannot do unless and until we know Allah, with respect to the referred roles, and seek knowledge of Allah by personally experience Allah in these roles. So the next 3 aspects are basically defining the roles of Allah for which we need to do hamd of Allah. So the first of these roles of Allah is the Rabbul Alameen. That is, Allah is the one who is carrying out the process of Rububiyyat for each and every one and everything in the world. The next aspect is Allah is Rahman and Rahim, the source of rahmat in all its form, with Rahman depicting this as the best of the best in terms of the peak of the source applicable for each and everyone, regardless of their deeds and iman. And Rahim depicting a privilege applicable only for those who are on the righteous path. So these two aspects, these are just two aspects of Allah on the basis of which we need to do hamd of. The third aspect is then defined in the phrase Malik Yawmuddin. It's another role of Allah as Malik of the Yawm of Deen. It's not talking about some distant future. It's not talking about the day of judgment wherein Allah is the master, the authority. The ayah is also depicting the role of Allah which we need to personally experience and seek knowledge of, which is Allah as the master, the sovereign, the authority of every time period which we spend as per deen. The basic idea is for us to realize that each and every day that we spend as per deen, the Malik of that day is Allah. It's not just some distant day of judgment and accountability that Allah is talking about, which we cannot personally experience right now. It's talking about each and every day of our life, right here, right now, every moment that we live in accordance with Deen, because for that particular moment, the Malik, the being who is all powerful, the master, the sovereign, is Allah. The reason why we are giving you a brief overview of our Waqt app, Quran Words and Concept, is this app as well as our website incorporates all our research. So if you want to refer to our research, you can refer to our website, but we would recommend this smartphone app which contains all our research and it's regularly updated. So before I give you a brief overview of our research, it is updated on regular basis. We share our research through website, app, and YouTube channel as our duty of Iqra, which means read, understand, implement in your lives, and proclaim to others. So this is us proclaiming to others. But this is a work which is still in progress. But we update the website and app on a regular basis. All contents are to be taken as aid only, to assist your study and never as a replacement of Quran. Our duty as Muslim to pick up Quran and learn Quran and Deen Islam directly through Quran by ourselves will remain imposed on all of us on individual basis. Take it as an aid. Never ever take it as a replacement of Quran. Plus, to err is human. We all can make mistakes. So based on your research, if you come across any mistake or missing aspect in any of these contents, please notify us immediately so that we can correct our mistakes, and we would be highly obliged. So I'll just give you a brief overview of our Waqt app. It's a smartphone app. This is the icon, Quran Words and Concept. If you download this app and click this app, and if you click on the drawer and the three lines, it will take you to the different features of the app. I would recommend go to the keyword vocabulary and search the key Quranic words that you're looking for. So for instance, if you're looking for the word Adam, you can click alphabet A here, and when you click alphabet A, all the words that start with A would be shown. Click on the word Adam and it will show you the key word vocabulary of the word Adam as researched by us. You can copy it, you can share it, you can communicate to others. In addition to this, you can also refer to each ayah as well. So for instance, if you want to go to Surah An-Nisa, you can click this icon. It will take you to Surah Nisa. And for instance, you want to go to ayat number 434 or 460, you can click on this icon and it will take you to that particular ayah that you want to go. For now, let's stick to this ayah, and you can go for you can select each and every keyword for that particular ayah as well. So for instance, you want to understand the keyword vocabulary of taqwa in this ayat. You can click on the word taqwa within the ayah. It will also take you to the keyword vocabulary section. In addition to this, you can also understand the concept behind each ayah. by clicking on the concept button, which will basically complete a description and commentary of this ayah end to end. And you can also to refer to the lesson, the how we can implement the divine lesson in our day-to-day life through by clicking on the lesson tab. Now, one thing we would want to really discuss is why we do not use root word methodology anymore. Now, keep in mind, when we started research on Quran earlier on, we used to use root word method, but we have stopped using that. So this section is just our explanation as to why we have stopped using root word methodology. However, if you are comfortable with using that, please continue to do that. We are just explaining our reasons as to why we do not use root word method anymore. So the first and the foremost, Quran language is not the current spoken Arabic. There are many differences. Also, Quran is not for Arabs only, but for all humans for all times to come. Root words are external to Quran. Just like grammar is man-made, similarly root word methodology is a way derived by us as humans to understand Quran, and hence it is external to Quran. Root words are man-made and man-invented. Just like Shan and Nazul, study of situation and events in which Quranic ayah was revealed, root words are also man-made and invented to take the divine guidance out of Quran to external sources and dependencies only on scholars who have this knowledge and classification of root words. Quran does not follow any man-made intervention. It follows the waza, the set divine placement settings and contents which are aligned by Allah in order to make it easy and simple to understand for all humans, not just for Arabs, not just for scholars who know these root words. So we are going to discuss three important examples. First, we are going to discuss same root words but entirely different and opposite meanings. In this case, we are going to discuss the root word of nafaq. Then we are going to discuss the lack of agreement among scholars for the root word of important key Quranic word such as salat. Then we are going to discuss classifying or classification of the same word under two different root words. Huda. So let's discuss the first example. So two Quranic words such as munafiq and yunfikun, both with the same root word but an entirely opposite meaning. While the first one, munafiq, is translated as hypocrite, the second one, yunfikun, is translated as those who spend for the benefit of others in the sabil of Allah, but both have been classified under the same root word of nafaq. The other issue is that root word for salat, scholars do not agree with, there's a lack of agreement among scholars in terms of which root word to pick for the word salat. Some say it's salal, some say it's sallu, some say it's salli. And it's extremely important which root word to pick in case of root word methodology, because the meaning of the word is highly dependent upon the root word you pick, which means that simply by picking a different root word can render the meaning of the word salat other than the one intended by Allah. So the definition of salat becomes external to Quran and is handed over to the man-made method based on the classification of the root word. Now let's take another example of the same root words with same meanings but are classified under separate root words in order to manipulate and mistranslate these words. Both are under the same set of meanings of guide, pole star, witch, who lead the way for others. So for instance, words like hadu, had, hadin, etc. when appear in ayat like 13:7, for instance here, hadin, or ayahs like 13:33, 39:23 or 40:33 are classified under root word of hadi and translated under broad meanings as guide, guidance, or leading the way for others. However, the words like hadu, or Huda, for instance, as used here in Ayah 262. Other ayahs such as 446, 160, 541, 62:6 are all classified as Hud and mistranslated as Jews. But if we look at the broad meanings of all of these words, they share the same meaning with the broad meanings of the word as guide or guidance. Does the words such as Yehud or Had or Hadu also have the same broad meanings, which is guide, those who present themselves as leading the way for others towards the Hidayah, and refer to religious leaders, preachers, scholars, etc. So as per our understanding and as per our experience, the addition of wow at the end does not change the meaning of the word. So if you look at both of these words, one is had, other is hadu. There's only an addition of wow in the end of one, which is translated as Jews. Whereas our experience and our research so far suggests that there is no difference. For instance, if you look at the word aman as used in Ayah 2:177, or the word amanu or yominu as in Ayah 2:3, there is only addition of the word wow, and it does not change the meaning of the word. The meaning remains the same. It does not change. So thank you so much for listening to this presentation. Um, um, so we are going to go into the question answer session. Please note that this session will also be recorded. Therefore, you can switch off your video if you're not comfortable. During the discussion, please, one person talks at a time. Please respect each other's views, opinions, and perspective. Please avoid detailed comments and stick to question only so as to allow addressing the queries. Please keep your questions short and concise so everyone can participate. For everyone or anyone who is not able to ask or who is more comfortable can also contact us with your questions and comments at either you can email us at infowaqt@gmail.com, or you can contact us via the contact us website link from our website. Thank you so much.